Well, welcome in, Tiger fans, live to another hump day edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. I'm your host, as always, Justin Babin Jr. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today on this fine Wednesday hump day afternoon, April 8th, 2026. Got a lot to get into on the show today. Going to be talking baseball, basketball, and a little bit of football towards the end of the show. Of course, we got to recap, unfortunately, LSU baseball's midweek loss in the box to Bethune-Cookman last night. We'll talk about some LSU basketball portal news. We'll talk a little bit about Sam Leavitt towards the end of the show today. Again, I thank you folks, as always, for tuning in to another daily edition, another Wednesday afternoon edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. Before we get into everything we got on the show today, remember, as always, we're sponsored by our wonderful friends over at Shield Heating and Cooling, best AC company in the business today. Remember that number, 225-46-BAYOU, 225-46-BAYOU, BAYOU. You call the best team, AC team in the business today over at Shield Heating and Cooling at that number. You tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and you will be receiving free AC system clean and checks for every AC system in your home, courtesy of the wonderful team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. And we greatly love and appreciate them for being the daily title sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show. Thank you, as always, for tuning into the show, folks. And of course, unfortunately, we got to talk. We got to talk LSU baseball losing. We got to talk about an LSU baseball loss and recap last night. The Tigers losing in the box, their midweek game Tuesday night, dropping it to Bethune-Cookman last night, Tuesday night, 10-7. You know, it's a midweek loss. It sucks. We're going to talk about it. It doesn't erase what you've been doing over the past 2 weeks. You know, great work you've done over the past 2 weeks. I mean, it hasn't been perfect, but you won your last two SEC series in a row against Kentucky in the box and in Knoxville, at Tennessee before the game last night, and the 8 games before the game last night against Bethune-Cookman. This offense was on a heater. They were averaging 10.5 runs per game. Cade Arrambide and Derek Curiel have just been on fire, scorching hot lately. You've seen great things out of John Pearson, Seth Dardar, Stephen Milam. I really like what you see out of Eddie Yaman at the plate as well, just because he gets on base. A lot of guys have been stepping up offensively, and you're coming off a weekend against Tennessee where I thought your pitching staff was awesome, was great with what they were able to do on the road in a hostile environment in Knoxville. I thought your pitching staff had a really, really good weekend in Knoxville. But, of course, you suffer a loss last night to Bethune-Cookman, and it's a team that we talked about that really is one of the better non-conference teams that you're going to face this season. This season. Good evening, Goose Sports. Thank you, Randy, also for tuning into the show. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. You know, and you put up 7 runs last night, and I thought, again, Curiel and Arrambide have just been on fire lately, and they continued it last night. Both Curiel and Arrambide both had 3 hits. I think Curiel went 3 for 6. Arrambide went 3 for 5. We'll go through some more numbers. I mean, you put up 7 runs. Didn't have a bad offensive night. But again, it's a midweek game against a team that's 22-10. That was a regional team last year. They were the class of the SWAC last year, won the SWAC last year, made a regional last year. They're the class of the SWAC again this season. I'd be willing to, they'll probably make another regional this year as well. They are a good team, one of the better non-conference teams that you're going to face all season. But it is, I haven't calculated the RPI and all of that, need to get into those numbers. But it is, I don't know how big of an RPI hit that it is, but you've lost 6 non-conference games this season, which typically for a Jay Johnson LSU baseball team, you're not losing that many non-conference games. Jay Johnson has done a really good job of handling his non-conference opponents in his past seasons at LSU. This team has struggled with that. I mean, you lost 2 games to Sacramento State. You lost to McNeese. You lost to ULL. You lost to Northeastern. And then you lost to Bethune-Cookman last night. And again, Bethune-Cookman is not a bad team. They are not a bad team. But, You lose 10-7 last night. We'll kind of get into it. You really had just one inning, the seventh inning last night, just kind of this team imploded last night and gave up 5 runs in the seventh inning. We'll get to that, but I want to get into a little bit of game flow here. Freshman Marcos Paz got the start and originally was great in the first inning. Marcos Paz retired the side in order on only 5 pitches in the first inning. Then the LSU offense would go and put up 2 quick runs in the first inning. Milam and Brown were walked to start the first inning. Derek Curiel hit in an RBI single to drive in a run. Then there was kind of a double steal where Curiel kind of gave himself up at second base. We've seen that throughout the season, but it allowed a run to come home and score the second run of that first inning for LSU. So we talked yesterday about getting off to a good start and taking an early lead. Well, you did that in the first inning. You did a good job of that in the first inning. And Marcos Paz, again, was excellent in the first inning, retiring the side in order on only 5 pitches. But then you get to the second inning, and LSU gives up 3 runs. Bethune-Cookman puts 3 runs up on the board on 6 hits in the second inning. Bethune-Cookman hit 3 straight singles off of Marcos Paz to start the second inning. Hit 3 straight singles off of Paz to start the second inning. Connor Benj would come in. That would drive in Bethune-Cookman's first run of the game. Connor Benj would come in and give up an RBI single for Bethune-Cookman's second run of the inning. And then Cooper Williams would come in and give up an RBI double. So 3 runs for Bethune-Cookman on 6 hits in the second inning. You had that. Then you had a Jake Brown RBI single in the second that tied the game up at 3. Curiel single and an Aaron Beatty RBI double hit to the wall in center field. Center fielder tried to make a good play on this ball in the third inning, this Cade Aaron Beatty ball, but an RBI double hit off the center field wall, drives in Derek Curiel, gives LSU the lead in the third. Again, Cade Aaron Beatty and Derek Curiel have just been awesome for this baseball team lately. They have just been scorching hot among others that have been really good. Dardar, Pearson, Milam. I like what I see from Eddie Yaman. Mason Braun has put some good at-bats together lately with what Mason Braun has been able to do. So kind of back and forth in this game. Zion Theophilus retired the side in order in the third. Then he got 2 outs in the fourth before he gave up a solo home run with 2 outs in the fourth on a hanging changeup that I believe tied the game at 4 at the time. Derek Curiel drove in a run on an RBI single in the bottom of the fourth. Santiago Garcia, the left-hander, would come in and give up an RBI double in the fifth. But Garcia gave up an RBI double in the fifth, so he gave up a run, but he also recorded 3 strikeouts in the fifth. So I do really like Santiago Garcia's stuff. Like, he's got a really good breaking ball. He's got a good fastball, and I like Garcia. I think he's been, performance-wise, the best left-hander on this pitching staff. So he gives up that RBI double in the fifth, but records 3 strikeouts as well. Jake Brown Jake Brown into 6th. So Jake Brown already drove in a run on an RBI single earlier in the game, but then Jake Brown would hit a solo home run in the 6th. Just absolutely crushed this ball. It was Brown's 13th home run of the season, man. Like, Jake Brown has continued. He had that hot start in the first 5-6 weeks of the season where he was playing like a Golden Spikes player, Golden Spikes award winner. He had a homer over the weekend against Tennessee, had a homer in the 6th, a solo blast last night in the 6th for LSU. But you get to the 7th inning, and in the 7th inning, LSU goes into that 7th inning up 6-5, and this team just kind of implodes. The 7th inning basically cost you this game when you look at it. I mean, you gave up 5 runs in the top of the 7th. Garcia would come back out. Garcia would give up a triple to start the 7th, and then an RBI single that would tie the game at 6. On that triple, Chris Stanfield in left field kind of like bent his wrist and hit his wrist hard into the wall, It kind of looked a little bit scary at the time. He was eventually able to, he finished that inning out. He was taken out of the game later in the game for precautionary reasons and all of that. But that was kind of the second injury scare within like a 10-minute span. Because in the bottom of the sixth inning, I thought Seth Dardar sliding into second base might have broken his ankle or broken his leg or something. It looked bad, and he was not moving on the ground at first. It looked really, really rough. Well, Dardar pops back up to his feet and continues to play the rest of the game. It was really, really scary at the time, especially I love Seth Dardar, one of my favorite players to watch on this team. I think he's been great this season, especially great over the past 2 weeks. A really bad injury scare in the bottom of the sixth, able to get up and able to continue and be fine. But I was like, did he break his ankle? Did he break his leg or something? He ended up being okay. I mean, I'm sure it hurt. I'm sure it really hurt. It really looked like he did sliding into second base. But you had that, and then you had the Chris Stanfield thing in the outfield on the triple. So 2 injury scares really within a 2-minute span. But yeah, going back, Garcia gives up the triple, then an RBI single. Garcia gives up, ties it at 6 in the 7th inning. Then Danny Lockenmeyer would come in to face one batter, and the only batter that Lockenmeyer faced, he hit a batter. The only batter he faced. That is back-to-back games. In the Tennessee game on Easter Sunday, I believe, Lockenmeyer came in the game and hit the only batter he faced, and he did the same thing in the 7th inning last night. Danny Lockenmeyer has obviously been used a lot more lately by this LSU coaching staff, and he had been doing really good, but that's back-to-back games where he's come in out of the bullpen. The only batter he's faced, he's hit a batter, unfortunately. And then, let's see. You would have Maverick Rizzi come in the game. So Maverick Rizzi would come in the game. Rizzi would hit the first batter he faced, and then he would walk in a run with the bases loaded, and then walk in another run with the bases loaded. So Rizzi hit a batter and then walked in 2 runs with the bases loaded. And this is really one of those things where you just kind of imploded with a couple walks and a couple hit by pitches in the 7th inning, just absolutely imploded as a pitching staff and just as a team, giving up 5 runs in the 7th inning. Dax Date would come in for Maverick Rizzi, and a ball was hit very hard off of Dax Date. It was hit straight to second base and Seth Dardar at second base, but the ball bounced off of Dardar in the outfield and 2 runs scored on the play. So you went from going into the 7th inning up 5-6 to now going after the top of the 7th, you're down 10-6. You just absolutely imploded with 2 hit by pitches, 2 walks. They ruled it an error on Seth Dardar that allowed 2 runs to score. Just absolutely imploded in that 7th inning. And then you get to the bottom of the 7th inning and you load the bases with nobody out offensively in the bottom of the 7th inning. So it's like cardiac cats, maybe. We've seen the cardiac cats thing a lot lately for this team and a lot of comebacks lately. And you load the bases with nobody out. And then, you load the bases with nobody out. So, and then Stephen Milam, Jake Brown, and John Pearson were all struck out. 3 batters, Milam, Brown, and Pearson struck out. 3 strikeouts in a row for the pitcher's last name for Bethune Cookman was Zambrano. He came in the game and struck out Milam, Brown, and Pearson, all with the bases loaded. Had some really good off-speed stuff. He struck out Milam and Brown on what I thought was a pretty good changeup, and then he struck out Pearson on a slider. But again, you had the bases loaded and nobody out. You got to be able to get the run over there. And this offense has been really good lately. I've gone through their numbers over the past 8 games, but it's kind of like, get a run over, man. Like, I don't care. It can be a sac fly. Like, it doesn't matter. Get the run over. You got to get the run over there. And you come up, and 3 of your best hitters just come up and strike out 3 times in a row. You don't score a run. I mean, again, not scoring a run when you have the bases loaded and nobody else is just, that's bad. That's bad. So again, just a very ugly 7th inning for this LSU baseball team. LSU would get the tying run to the plate and Derek Curiel in the ninth, but Curiel grounded out to end the game. LSU loses 10-7. But again, you get the tying run to the plate and Derek Curiel in the ninth. And I know my buddy David Billiot pointed this out on X. Imagine if you had just scratched across 1 or 2 runs in the seventh with the bases loaded and nobody out. Like, just get one of those runs across. Like, hit 2 sac flies or somebody. You don't even have to get a hit. Like, just put the ball in play. Put the ball in play. You can even, like, you don't want to ground into a double play, but with nobody out and bases loaded, you can ground into a double play and still get a run aboard, and that helps you because you ended up getting the tying run to the plate in Curiel in the ninth. But imagine what would have happened if you were able to scratch off at least 1 run in the seventh inning. So yeah, you just kind of imploded, and that seventh inning just lost you the game last night. Do want to give credit to Reagan Ricken. This is not talked about, but Ricken did pitch the final 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Didn't give up a run, only gave up 2 hits, struck out 2. So good final 2 1/3 innings for Reagan Ricken out of the bullpen. But Bethune-Cookman hit really well off of you last night. Bethune-Cookman's offense had 12 hits last night, and LSU issued 6 free passes to the Bethune-Cookman offense. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. It sucks. You would have loved to. It seems like every time we say this team has turned a corner, we say this team turns a corner against Kentucky. All right, this team is on a good path, and then they start down 6-1 early in the midweek game against Southern. Okay, it looks like they turn a corner. They won a road series on the road in Knoxville against Tennessee in a tough environment, a tough place to play, and you lose to Bethune-Cookman. And again, Bethune-Cookman is not a bad team. They are not a bad team. They'll probably make another regional this year. Their second regional in back-to-back years. They're the class of the SWAC. But again, it is disappointing. And then that seventh inning, you just imploded with, I mean, you hit 2 batters in the seventh. You walked 2 batters in the seventh. Dardar committed an error in the bases loaded in the bottom of the seventh. So the seventh inning last night was just a disaster, and it completely did you in. Few good offensive numbers by few guys. Derek Curiel did go 3 for 6 with 2 runs driven in. Cade Beatty also went 3 for 5 with a double and an RBI. So those guys continue to be scorching hot at the plate. Jake Brown, also drove in 2 RBIs, including that solo homer that Brown hit in the 6th for the second home for his 13th homer of the season. And then Eddie Yaman, give Eddie Yaman credit. Eddie Yaman got on base 4 times last night in his at bats. Eddie Yaman's a guy, I know my guy Zach Nunez points this out a lot. Eddie Yaman needs to get more at bats because he just gets on base, man. He gets on base, and I really do like what you see from Eddie Yaman. He was the DH last night. Aaron Beatty was back at catcher. You saw Mason Braun at first base, and I didn't think Braun played a bad first base. I really didn't. Now, there were a couple situations, like I know a ball got away from him on a pickoff attempt by Santiago Garcia that allowed a runner to move up. There were a couple situations, but I didn't think Braun was bad. Obviously, as I said, I thought York needed to sit at least a couple games. I hate saying that because God knows I don't want to dog on a player, and that's not what I'm trying to do, but it had been really rough a couple weeks since SEC play started for Zach York. So I do really love what you have with Eddie Yaman and what he's been able to do because he puts good at bats together when he gets the opportunities, man. And not only that, but again, as Zach Nunez points out, he gets on base. But a frustrating game. Again, it does not erase. I don't want to freak out and oversell it, and it doesn't erase what you've done the past 2 weeks because you won back-to-back SEC series. One of them was on the road in Knoxville in a very hostile, hard place to play. I understand all of that, and your offense has been putting up, over 10 runs a game in the past 8 games before that game against Bethune Cookman last night. But it is frustrating just because every time we're like, okay, this team has turned a corner. Maybe this team has found it. You think they found it after Kentucky, and then they go down 6-1 against Southern. You think they found it after Tennessee, and then they lose last night against, again, not a bad Bethune Cookman team, but you just wish you hope for better. Now, again, I don't know how much that impacts your RPI. Again, losing 6 non-conference games so far this season obviously isn't great when it comes to RPI and all of that, and it's more than normally. You normally don't lose 6 non-conference games in a season with Jay Johnson as your head coach in the previous 4 seasons he's been here at LSU. So it is what it is, man. You get ready for Oxford. You get ready for Ole Miss this weekend. We'll preview that later this week, and I know that's going to be a real fun series. Kind of, the Lane Kiffin and the football saga and drama blending over and coming over into other sports as well. I'm sure it's going to be a rowdy and raucous environment against Ole Miss. Ole Miss has a really good starting pitching rotation, from what I hear and from what I see. So it's going to be a tough series to win, but it's going to be a dogfight like every weekend in the SEC. So again, the Tigers unfortunately dropped the midweek game last night, losing 10-7 in the box to Bethune Cookman. It is what it is. Let's get to some comments here. Let's see what's going on. Let's see. RR looked injured. Yeah, that was really scary. Like, that was really scary for me, and I'm glad he's okay, because again, I love Seth RR and I love what he does for this team. Alex, hey Justin, keep doing great work on the podcast. Thank you, Alex. You're awesome. You're awesome, and I just thank you so much for all of your support. Kid Dynamite Jr. Let's see. A Babin crew. Cabin crew confused me. Okay, you meant Babin crew. All right, man. All right. Yeah, I love all you guys. Thank you guys so much. Everybody who supports and everybody who tunes into the show. I really do greatly appreciate it. I want to get into one thing. I want to shout out a few people I talked about on my show yesterday. Just the donations and the amazing work that the LSU fan base has done over the past, couple of days, really since Monday, donating for LSU baseball to the coaches committee and doing all of that. It's been great work. And there are a few people I need to shout out on X. Mainly, a lot of this stuff has happened on X. I know Coyote _operator on X has done really great things with this. NBA Tiger Boy has done a really good job with this. Tingle & Co. mic'd up. I really want to shout out, though, my buddy Paul Jarrett. Paul Jarrett is a really good friend of mine. Great dude. Does great wonderful work with Walk It Off Talk. And Paul, there's not a lot of people who are better in the LSU community than Paul. And there's not a lot of people in the LSU community who love LSU baseball more than Paul does. And he thought about a great, phenomenal way to raise money through the coaches committee or anything, really, any donation to keep Jay Johnson here in the long run for LSU baseball, because that's what we all want. We all want LSU to be able to keep the best college baseball coach in America today. So Paul came out with a really, really good idea, great idea that you guys need to be a part of. So Paul has a signed and framed Dylan Cruz LSU baseball jersey. He has a signed and framed Dylan Cruz LSU baseball jersey, and he is going to give that away. He's going to draw. He's going to do a drawing. A drawing is going to be held on April 18th, Saturday, April 18th, which is not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. How you enter that drawing is you have to donate at least $25 to LSU baseball. Whatever way you want to do that. Paul says whatever way you want to do that, just make sure the money's going to LSU baseball. I would recommend, personally, I think the coaches committee is a really good way to do it. But Paul says just getting more people wanting to donate and, just giving money to LSU baseball so that we can keep Jay Johnson and keep this going. Because, again, I love LSU baseball. Paul loves LSU baseball. There are so many people who love LSU baseball. That's obvious with all the people that have been donating over the past couple of days. But anyway, this giveaway for the signed and framed Dylan Cruz jersey, how do you enter it? Well, and this is Paul's thing. I want to give credit to Paul with Walk It Off Talk. I told him I was going to mention this on my show today because I think it's great. You got to donate at least. You got to do a few things. You got to be following Paul on his X on @PaulJarrett16 on X. And then you got to be following him on his Walk It Off Talk page on X as well. You got to be following him on X on both of those pages. Then what you got to do is you got to donate at least $25. At least $25 between it started on Monday, or he announced it today. But he's taking stuff from people who started, because this thing really started going on Monday. And I believe it lasts until Saturday, April 18th, which is going to be game 2 of the Texas A&M series. What you got to do, be following Paul @PaulJarrett16 on X and @Walk It Off Talk on X. And then on Paul's post that he had on his Walk It Off Talk page today, in the comments, you got to give Paul a screenshot of your donation, at least $25, to enter the drawing April 18th for a signed and framed Dylan Cruz LSU baseball jersey. It is a phenomenal idea. It's great. And I know, again, Paul, just credit to him, man. Credit to a bunch of people, but especially to him. And I just wanted to shout that out because it is a great thing that he's doing. Again, follow him at Walk It Off Talk and @PaulJarrett16. Also, donate at least $25 to LSU baseball. I would recommend the coaches committee, but anything with LSU baseball, you got to make sure in the comment section of the post he made today that you show him the screenshot of your donation. You got to show him the screenshot of your donation to enter the drawing. And that drawing for the Dylan Cruz jersey will be on Saturday, April 18th. And the cool thing is, for every $25 donation you make, you get an entry into it. So if you make a $25 donation, you get 1 entry. If you make a $50 donation, you get 2 entries. 75, you get 3. 100, you get 4. For every $25 donation you make, you get an entry. So the more money you donate, the more likely you are to win a Dylan Cruz signed and framed LSU baseball jersey. Again, I hope I gave the details on that all right. I hope I didn't mess up any of those details. Of course, Walk It Off Talk and Paul, he'll have you covered on that if I missed anything. But just great. I love the LSU community. I love what the LSU community has been doing this week to support Jay Johnson and this LSU baseball program that is very near and dear to my heart. And I think if a lot of people tell about what Paul is doing and what other people are doing, we're just encouraging people. Even if you don't want to donate $25, even if you don't want to donate $25, you gotta donate it to enter the drawing for the Dylan Cruz jersey. Even if you wanted to donate 10, donate to the coaches committee, or LSU baseball in any way. It's something that we're all passionate about and that we all love, and that we all want to keep Jay Johnson forever, for as long as we can, because he's the best college baseball coach in America today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Let's see. Sorry I'm late, brother. Okay. I hope I didn't mess any of that up, Paul. I hope I did a good job. I hope I did a good job with that. AP and Paul, thank you so much for tuning in. AP is going to go live with Braden Fajoko at 7:30. Y'all need to definitely tune into that. That is going to be a show that is can't miss tonight at 7:30. Timeouts and tangents with guest Braden Fajoko. I know our buddies David Billiot and Zach Nunez are going live at 7 with Go Deep Dive as well. So might have to double stream it on one screen and on the other screen or something. I don't know. But yeah, I just wanted to show some love to my brothers, and we're building a great LSU community. And I greatly appreciate all of these folks You didn't miss anything when you're getting the word out. All right. So I wanted to touch on a few more notes before we get out of here relating to LSU women's and men's basketball. Of course, the transfer portal for college basketball opened up this week. Women's basketball front. So I talked yesterday about how LSU's Devine Burridge had already entered the transfer portal. We already knew about that. But this other one that came out yesterday was kind of shocking. LSU guard who just finished her freshman year, Bella Hines, is entering the transfer portal. Bella Hines is entering the transfer portal as a freshman in 2026, or this past season. She played in 33 games. Her minutes really increased as the season went along. So she didn't get a lot of starts, but she did play in 33 games. She saw her minutes increase as the season went along, and I thought when she played, I thought she was pretty good. I thought she showed some really good signs as a star for the future, potentially for LSU women's basketball. But it is what it is. She's entering the transfer portal. Obviously, we wish her the best. Thank her for her time as a Tiger. Of course, she was coming out of high school. She was the number 31 overall recruit in the nation coming out of high school. That was surprising. Like, we already knew about Devine Burridge. We didn't expect Bella Hines to enter the portal, but she did. I will say you do have, obviously, you lose number 4. You lose Flau'jae Johnson, an LSU legend in women's basketball, but you still have Zakiya Johnson, Grace Knox, Kate Koval, Jada Richard, Malaysia Fulwiley, Michaela Williams. You have a lot of pieces coming back from this team in 2026. The reports from Shea Dixon and On 3 talked about this, and then I think Kim Mulkey said this in an interview she might have done last week with Jacques Doucette. Kim Mulkey said that they're looking to potentially add 2 to 3 more players from the transfer portal, while LSU women's basketball assistant coach, longtime assistant Bob Starkey, has said that they hope to possibly add 1 to 2 more players in the post, and then maybe add a little bit of depth at the point guard position. Obviously, the big signing, we mentioned it yesterday, was getting the number 1 center in America and Louisiana's own Caroline Bradley to commit to LSU. Obviously, that is going to be huge for you over the coming years, having Caroline Bradley lock down the post. That's something you struggle with that at times, having post play and, post play, really that dominant post player that you've had in the past with Kim Mulkey's teams at LSU. You didn't really have that this season. You bring Caroline Bradley. That was a big get. But you do have a lot returning from the team this past year. So I wanted to just, again, the big news from yesterday is that Bella Hines has entered the transfer portal. Let's see, men's basketball, Will Wade, obviously, we're so hyped. Everybody is so hyped that the general is back. And, excuse me, I'm going to grab a little bit of a refresher, friends. So hyped, so excited that Will Wade is back, that the general is back for the Fighting Tigers. From the reports that I've read and seen right now, there's only 2 players that are left from Matt McMahon's, tenure at LSU. Only 2 players currently are left from Matt McMahon's team right now. And this can change because players, it's a 14-day portal window. Players can still enter the portal, so things can change. But right now, guard Jalen Reese and forward Robert Miller are the only 2 LSU players that are still, with LSU right now. Of course, they can announce any day now if they want to enter the portal as well, but they are the only 2, players from Matt McMahon's tenure at LSU that are still with LSU right now, Robert Miller and Jalen Reese, though that can change. Every other player has either announced their plans to enter the transfer portal, exhausted their college eligibility. I know there were a few freshmen that signed in the fall. Kevin Thomas and Hurley Brutus that signed with McMahon in the fall. They both requested a release from LSU since Will Wade took over and Matt McMahon left. I know you signed a 22-year-old guard from Australia and Owen Foxwell. Well, he didn't sign. He committed. He didn't sign And now that Will Wade is the coach, Foxwell flipped from LSU. Now he's going to Wisconsin. So again, you got a lot of work to do. You got to sign double-digit transfer portal prospects for this basketball team. It is a full-on rebuild. Obviously, you trust the general. Obviously, you trust Will Wade. But it is, there's a lot going on right now. Tuning into, I know Shea Dixon mentioned this in an article I read earlier today. Connor, you're going to hear LSU cast a wide net in this first weekend about, you're going to hear LSU related to a lot of players entering the transfer portal. LSU is going to reach out to, because you got to sign a lot. You got to sign double-digit players out of the transfer portal. So it's going to be active. And I will say one of the things that we didn't get to talk about, I believe Will Wade talked about this in this introductory press conference. He was asked about like the rumors, Pete Nakos of On Three's report that $12 million, Will Wade had $12 million to spend on this LSU men's basketball roster. Now, Wade said that there was never a number like that was set. There was never a number like that was set. All that Will Wade said was that basically whatever money we're going to have to spend, we will spend. We're going to spend however much we need to compete at the highest level in the SEC, in the Southeastern Conference. So whether that's above 12 million, whether that is 12 million, whether that's under 12 million, who knows? We know like this LSU athletic department is all in, obviously, on giving Lane Kiffin everything he needs for football, giving Will Wade everything he needs for men's basketball, and Kim Mulkey in women's basketball, obviously signing Caroline Bradley, and so we get all of that. It's going to be a fun ride over the next 2 weeks that the portal is open, to see what LSU does and Will Wade does, and we'll keep you updated over the next 2 weeks on both the men's and women's basketball fronts. Let's see. Let's get to a few more comments. Broke my heart to see Bella go. Yeah, I did like Bella. I did like Bella. I thought when she played, she was she wasn't a starter, but when she played, I thought she played well, and she was pretty good for this team. And I thought she was going to come in next year and maybe improve in her sophomore year. So it is unfortunate that Bella Hines is leaving the program, out of the program, but that's the update I have today for you in the portal on the basketball front. LSU football. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is Sam Leavitt. Now, I said Will Wade. Lane Kiffin spoke to the media like he's been doing every Tuesday for the last 3 weeks since spring started with his media availability. And we're going to get into more of what he said tomorrow, because I do have a few more notes from what Will Wade why do I keep saying Will Wade? From what Lane Kiffin said yesterday that I want to get into. But I want to close out the show today and just talk about Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt, when Sam Leavitt released this post to Instagram on Monday, it had a lot of people in an uproar. A lot of people were concerned. Sam Leavitt basically posted a picture of his foot. He had a small procedure on Monday to remove the pins from his foot. Now he's, and that obviously that's from his Liz Frank injury, his foot injury that he suffered that cut his season short in 2025 at Arizona State. He had the pins taken out of his foot on Monday. Now he's in crutches. And Leavitt did participate in the first 2 weeks of spring practice in individual drills and throwing drills. He didn't participate in any, running drills or any 11-on-11 team drills. But now that he got those pins taken out, Lane Kiffin reported that he's on crutches, obviously, and he's not going to be able to participate in the rest of spring practice. And I understand that is a big deal, like not being able to participate in the rest of spring practice, and I get all of that. But this didn't come as a surprise to anybody. We all knew Sam Leavitt was going to be limited in the spring. That was the report from everybody. I know the post that he made Monday had a few people freaked out, and I understand all of that. But we knew Sam was going to be limited. He participated in the first 2 weeks of spring practice in a limited capacity. He won't participate in the rest of spring practice anymore. And I understand the argument about, you've got double-digit transfer portal wide receivers that you bring in, and you want Sam to develop some chemistry and some rapport with those receivers and all of that. And I get all of that. That's a detriment of him not being able to participate in the rest of spring. I get that. A few things I wanted to say on this topic, though, and some of this is stuff that Lane mentioned yesterday. But my thing is, Sam Leavitt coming over from Arizona State is a proven quarterback. He's a proven commodity. He had 2 really good seasons at Arizona State as the starting quarterback. Of course, in 2024, leading them to a Big 12 title win, Big 12 conference championship win, and then leading them thus, because they won the Big 12 conference championship, they made the college football playoff in 2024. And then I know his season was cut short last year in 2025, but he put up really good numbers, and he led them to a CFP playoff appearance in 2024. And, my point is, Leavitt is a proven commodity. He is a proven commodity with what he did 2 years at Arizona State. And I know it's a Big 12 and compared to the SEC and all of that, but there is a reason that in January, Sam Leavitt was the number 1 transfer portal prospect, number 1 ranked portal prospect, regardless of position in January. There is a reason for that because of what he did at Arizona State. He put up really good numbers and produced really, really well at Arizona State, okay? So you kind of know what you're getting with Sam Leavitt, or a little bit based on what he did at Arizona State. And again, there's a reason he was the number 1 transfer portal prospect, regardless of position, in the portal class in January. And, I understand the concern, obviously, about him not being able to develop chemistry and rapport with his receivers, but this is something that Lane mentioned yesterday. Look, Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss didn't join Ole Miss until mid to late April. He joined them in the second portal window, when there was a second transfer portal window. That is when Chambliss joined Ole Miss. And so Trinidad Chambliss wasn't even on the team in spring practice at Ole Miss in 2025. And he ended up joining the team in the summer and becoming one of the best college football quarterbacks in America in 2025. And you're not only that, but you're talking about a guy who was from a D2 school, who was from Ferris State. Compared that to Sam Leavitt, who led Arizona State to a college football playoff appearance, who took them to a Big 12 title win and was the number 1 transfer portal prospect, regardless of position, in the portal class in January. So I understand the concern about Sam not being involved in the rest of the spring practice. If that is a concern for people, I get it. But Chambliss wasn't a part of spring practice, with Ole Miss last year in 2025. He wasn't even on the team, and he went on to become one of the best quarterbacks in the country in 2025. So you got to trust Lane Kiffin. You got to trust Charlie Weiss Jr. They knew all of this was going to happen. That the plan has always been get Sam ready for the summer and going into fall camp so he can be QB1 for the start of the season, September 5th, in Game 1 in Tiger Stadium against Clemson. That was always the plan, and that's still the plan. And he still participated a little bit, even though it was a limited role. He participated in the first 2 weeks of spring practice. So with all of this, this offense is going to figure it out. There are a lot of new pieces, obviously, with 40-plus transfer portal prospects, but you got to give it time. There's a reason all of the fans were clamoring for Lane Kiffin when Brian Kelly got fired. There's a reason Virgil Osbury says there was one name that they were looking at and one name that they wanted. And you got to trust Kiffin. You got to trust Charlie Weiss Jr. and this offense is going to get going and figure everything out. And again, Leavitt, when you look at Chambliss wasn't a part of spring for Ole Miss in 2025, and Chambliss came from a D2 school compared to Leavitt, coming from Arizona State, coming from a team that made the college football playoffs a few years ago, coming from the number one transfer portal prospect regardless of position. So calm down a little bit. Everything's going to be fine. I'm so hyped. I know everybody else is so hyped for this LSU football season that is coming up. I'll talk a little bit more. There's some more stuff that Lane talked about in his time with the media yesterday that I want to get to. I plan to get to that on the show tomorrow, but I just wanted to say everything's still on schedule and everything's still fine with Sam Leavitt. I know it was scary at the beginning of the week, and I know you don't like that he's not able to compete in the rest of spring practice or participate in it. But I trust Lane and I trust Charlie Weiss Jr. and this offense to put all of these pieces together and to figure it out. And I just cannot wait for LSU football season. So much going on right now in LSU athletics. I mean, baseball, I know last night was rough, but you win back-to-back SEC series. Think about this weekend, man. Like, think about going to Oxford. Think about that. Like, the Lane Kiffin drama carrying over into other sports. Like, that's definitely going to happen. It's going to be a crazy, crazy weekend. Women's and men's basketball, Will Wade, Kim Mulkey, transfer portal open for the next 2 weeks. Spring practice still going on. Like, it is not a better time, not a better year for me to choose to start going and daily covering LSU athletics and LSU sports. So that's pretty much all I have for the show today. Do me a favor if you can, folks. I don't like asking for this, but if you can, if you're willing, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed, and like this video, like this live stream. I would greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate all of you for tuning into the show. Remember, as always, God bless. Go Tigers. Have a great evening. Go Deep Dive is live at 7. AP Timeouts and Tangents. You're not going to want to miss it, live at 7:30 with Braden Fajoko. That is going to be a great and awesome show. But thank you, folks, as always, for tuning into the show. I greatly appreciate it. Have a great one. Have a great evening. God bless. Go Tigers. Babin on the Bayou. Out.